A fire broke out on the roof of the mammoth but yet to be finished Capitol Towers building in Moscow.
The skyscraper has 66 floors and its construction is due to be completed this year. More details on this later in the news. Good evening. I'm CJ Hero.
And I'm Nina Richie Alagao Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. And now for the headlines.
Malacanang defends President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s decision to veto a House bill creating the Bulacan Special Economic Zone. U.S. President Joe Biden invites President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to visit the U.S. Malacanang says no words yet on state visits. 3 dead in a shooting rampage at a Denmark mall. Russian Defense Ministry says Ukraine fires ballistic missiles at a Russian city. And first giant water lily discovered in over a century is the biggest in the world.
Malacanang clarified the decision of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to veto House Bill 7575, creating the Bulacan Airport City Special Economic Zone and Freeport Act. This after some lawmakers expressed disappointment in the presidential veto, including the president's sister, Senator Amy Marcos. Eden Santos has the story.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has vetoed House Bill 7575 or the Bulacan Airport City Special Economic Zone and Freeport Act to cure its flaws. The clarification came from Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles, who said President Marcos is fully supportive of the Aero City and that the construction of the 740 billion international airport in the province will push through. She pointed out the need to sharpen provisions of the bill, including those exempting the Commission on Audit to look into financial transactions of the Special Economic Zone.
The law needs to be sharpened to admit of the following: to provide audit, the necessary audit provisions for COA, the procedures for expropriating lands that had been awarded to agrarian reform beneficiaries, to provide for a master plan with metes and bounds of the full scope of the economic zone. It needs to address why there is a rule-making power given to the economic zone, to this particular economic zone, for environmental issues, for environmental concerns. This has not been given to other economic zones. It also seems to include some provisions that might be contrary to some technical operations in relation to transportation laws.
In its statement, the palace also said if President Marcos had not vetoed the measure, it would have lapsed into law on July 4. Angeles added that without those necessary amendments indicated in the veto explanation, the law may be vulnerable to constitutional challenge. No less than presidential sister and Senator Amy Marcos expressed disappointment in the president's veto, as she is concerned that the actions will have a chilling effect on investors and the business sector.
Well, the palace merely says that the law has to be sharpened. We have to make anticipations of possible constitutional challenges on this one. It will cause further delays if the law is challenged and invalidated. So this is the best way to address the problems, the innate problems of the House bill, and it gives an opportunity for the legislature to make those corrections. So we understand their feelings of disappointment, but this is the stand of the president. Let's fix this now, so that we don't wait for it to be challenged later on.
Incoming Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri and Senator Joel Villanueva described the presidential veto of House Bill 7575 as unfortunate as it could create jobs for Filipinos. Zubiri respects the presidential prerogative but maintains that the bill adheres with the provisions of the law, in particular that of the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises Act or CREATE. In a separate statement, Villanueva echoed Zubiri's concern. He explained that apart from creating employment opportunities, the bill aims to develop the country's economy with investment and infrastructure. Senator Marcos, on the other hand, appealed to the economic team of the new administration to state a clear policy on the creation of new eco-zones and urges to convene the Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council or LEDAC at the earliest opportunity to provide such guidance. Eden Santos reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
U.S. President Joe Biden has invited President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to visit the United States of America. Philippine Ambassador to the U.S., Jose Manuel Romualdez, confirmed Biden extended the invitation but said no date has been agreed upon as yet. He said U.S. Second Gentleman Douglas Emhoff personally handed Biden's invitation to Marcos after his inauguration. Emhoff, the husband of U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, headed the presidential delegation to represent Biden during Marcos Jr.'s inauguration. Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles said President Marcos has yet to acknowledge the open invitation.
Ma'am, how about for the invitation of U.S. President Biden?
Let's wait for Malacanang to formally acknowledge it. And then they will probably make the announcement with regards to whether or not it's going to happen. But let's wait.
Meanwhile, Angeles did not confirm reports that President Marcos is set to visit China this week. She said the president is busily assembling his cabinet and no announcement of any state visits has been made. She advised awaiting the announcement of President Marcos if there is indeed a scheduled trip to China.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. took part in 3 main activities to start the week following his inauguration. Vin Pascua revisits the President's Monday activities. Let's watch this.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. started the day early by attending the flag-raising ceremony at Malacanang. The president then greeted palace employees and thanked them for their warm welcome. He immediately proceeded to the Department of Agriculture in Quezon City to meet with DA officials. This is the first time he visited the DA headquarters as its concurrent secretary. As of press time, the palace has no statement on what has been discussed or if the president has any directives for the department. During his inaugural speech, the president stressed the importance of addressing the concerns of the agriculture sector.
Food is not just a trade commodity. Without it, people weaken. I am giving that policy the most serious thought if it doesn't change or make more allowances for emergencies with long-term effects.
In the afternoon, President Marcos witnessed the change of command in the leadership of the Presidential Security Group or PSG. The president has chosen former AFP spokesperson Colonel Ramon Zagala as the new PSG chief, replacing General Randolph Cabambang.
What you are guarding is not only the personages of the first family, but you are guarding and keeping safe an institution, the institution of the presidency. Because should you fail in your mission, that institution will collapse and the effects on our country will be dire. And that is why we only pick the best men and women that we have within our military to join the Presidential Security Group.
Colonel Zagala will also serve as the senior military assistant to the president. Before his appointment, Colonel Zagala is a certified VIP protector and a seasoned combat officer with 33 encounters with the enemies of the state.
During my time as PSG commander, I intend to focus primarily on 3 points: training, personnel welfare, and stakeholder engagement. I intend to provide our troops with the necessary and regular training they need to do their duty to the best of their abilities. I believe that a well-trained, highly skilled team will be the best defense and will be an effective deterrent against those that may want to do harm. Paramount to our success is the welfare and morale of our troops, which need to be constantly safeguarded. Focus on personnel as well as their career development are equally important. Difficult as it may seem, we shall strive to work hard with life and balance for all.
Senators Robin Padilla and JV Ejercito, as well as Executive Secretary Vic Rodriguez and AFP Chief of Staff General Andres Centino, also witnessed the change of command. Vin Pascua reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is making a final evaluation of the candidates for his cabinet's vacant posts. Eden Santos has the story.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is in no hurry to fill in vacant cabinet posts. Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles told reporters that they have no deadline or time frame to meet, but the president is seriously evaluating candidates for the post, and the evaluation is in its final stage. The president has yet to name the heads of the Department of Health, Department of Energy, Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Department of Science and Technology, and Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development.
Wala po sa binibigay sa amin na sinasabi nilang deadline. Ang sinasabi is masuri talaga ang pag-evaluate nila dito sa mga kandidato para sa mga posisyon. I understand that this is now going through the final evaluation stage. So, I don't think it will take too long.
Angeles said the appointees, in particular to DOH and DOE, need to be evaluated well.
Only that they have to evaluate it very well and fully. The president is quite aware. And in fact, one of the priorities is managing the effects of this pandemic. So you must also understand that this is so important. They must look very closely and carefully at the candidates.
In accordance with Memorandum Circular Number 1 issued by the Palace on July 1, the vacant positions shall be filled up by the second in rank as officer in charge until July 31, 2022. Eden Santos reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Incumbent officials, including President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and Vice President Sara Duterte, will not benefit from the House resolution seeking to change the term limits of elected officials. This was clarified by Pampanga Representative Aurelio Don Gonzales Jr., who authored House Resolution Number 1. The resolution seeks a 5-year term with one re-election for presidents, vice presidents, lawmakers, and local officials. Under the 1987 Constitution, presidents are banned from seeking re-election after their 6-year term ends. Vice presidents may run for re-election once. In an interview on Net 25 Saganang Mamamayan, Gonzales says he filed the same bill in the 17th and 18th Congress. He also denied allegations that the proposal is self-serving, as he is on his third term as congressman and is no longer entitled for re-election. If approved, the effectivity of the amendment is in 2025.
The Marcos administration will continue the campaign against illegal drugs started by the Duterte administration. Interior and Local Government Secretary Benhur Abalos made the assurance as he vowed to even participate in the drug raids. We have Mark Gabriel with the report.
As he formally assumes the role of DILG Chief, Secretary Benhur Abalos guarantees that he will continue the intensive campaign against illegal drugs that was started by the Duterte administration. Abalos says they will not let the gains of war on drugs be wasted. The DILG Chief says he is willing to participate in the drug operations that will be launched by the Philippine National Police.
Kasama talaga ako rito to show people at to give motivation to our police and to show them that ang gagawing mga raids is in accordance with the law. Okay? So yun ang sinabi ko sa ating kapulisyahan tungkol dito. Okay. At of course, yung kamukha na sinabi ko, iikot kami sa buong Pilipinas dito. All regions, ikutin namin.
Abalos also vows that a strong case will be pursued against drug suspect and charges will not result in dismissal. The DILG will work hand in hand with the Department of Justice in that regard.
Siguro I will give emphasis aside from the police, no? Yung sinasabi ko kanina, we will make sure that airtight ang kaso. Kasi maski manghuli ka na manghuli, pero kung karamihan dismissed, baliwala ito. No? So, kailangan siguro, hindi lang ang mga pulis ang malinis eh. Yung iba dapat ma-check din eh. So, may alam kayong mga ibang mga tao dyan, no? Kasi after this, importante, malinis ito. So, meron kaming gagawing project ni Secretary Boying Rimulya about this. No? Mag-press con din kami tungkol dito to make sure that lahat na ipapala airtight. Kasi it's not about the quantity of arrests. What is important is about the quality of arrests. Importante na yung kukunin mo will really stand in court. Talagang conviction that it's proof beyond reasonable doubt.
On questions about whether the Marcos administration's war on drugs will be as bloody as the previous one, Secretary Abalos has this to say.
Chino, it will be like this, no? Kamukha ng sinabi ko kanina, the drug war will be pursued relentlessly in accordance with the oath I will be taking on the basis of the Constitution.
For his first 100 days, Abalos will also prioritize strengthening the Bureau of Fire Protection with new equipment and facility. DILG will also augment personnel at the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology and continue internal cleansing among its ranks. Mar Gabriel, reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Oil firms are set to carry out a major price rollback for diesel and kerosene this week, which constitute less than 10% of the increases so far this year. In an advisory, Pilipinas Shell Petroleum Corporation said it will cut prices of diesel by 3 pesos per liter and kerosene by 3 pesos and 40 centavos, while no price adjustments will be made for gasoline. The same adjustment for diesel will be implemented by Clean Fuel and Petrogas. The rollback will take effect at 6 o'clock a.m. tomorrow, July 5, for all firms except for Clean Fuel, which will adjust prices past 8 o'clock in the morning. Data from the Department of Energy shows that as of June 28, 2022, gasoline has a net increase of 30 pesos per liter, diesel has 45.90 pesos per liter, and kerosene has 39.75 pesos per liter. Later on Mata ng Agila International, voter registration for barangay SK election in December starts. Amid a fresh COVID surge, China places 1.7 million people under COVID-19 lockdown in Anhui province. And 3 killed and several injured in a shooting at one of Denmark's biggest shopping malls. Catch the details after the short break.
Hello po, this is Enzo Pineda at plus pogi points talaga kapag marunong kang magluto ng recovery food para sa mga mahal mo sa buhay.
Malapit na! Ngayong Sabado, alas 10 ng umaga, kita-kits!
na ang shopping list nyo dahil narito na ang online shopping show kung saan ang hanap nyo, meron dito. Narito na ang Shopping All the Way with Jojo A. Eat na hit? We have it! May sayawan, tawanan, pati naiyakan. Pati pets nyo mag-i-enjoy dito. But wait, there's more. Dahil pati celebrity sellers, makikipag-online selling din. At hindi lang yan, dahil may chance kayong makabili ng collectible items mula sa inyong mga paboritong artista. Kaya what are you waiting for? Add to cart na! Shopping All the Way with Jojo A. Opening soon sa Net25.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Comelec has resumed voter registration ahead of the barangay and SK elections scheduled for December. Madeline Villar Moratillo reports.
Hundreds trooped into the office of the Commission on Elections in Arroceros, Manila for the first day of voter registration for barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections in December. A number of registrants went to the venue early morning to be the first in line and finish early. Although the registration process was fast for some, others complained about the long and tangled queues.
Sa pila lang po, sobrang haba. Nagkakagulo po yung pila. Halo-halo po yung senior tapos yung PWD po.
Grabe po, haba po.
Hindi kasi maayos yung pila doon. Kanya-kanya silang mga singit sa pila. Tapos yung iba, yung mga priority line, tsaka yung mga regular line, hindi po maayos. Kaya po ang tagal namin nakapasok.
Okay naman, mahaba lang pila. Sa pila po, mainit sa labas.
Voter registration will last until July 23 only. Registrants can go to Comelec offices all over the country from Monday to Saturday from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. All registrants are reminded to wear their face mask at all times and bring their own ballpen and alcohol, as the threat of COVID-19 still exists. Those experiencing symptoms are advised to defer plans to go outdoors. The Comelec also advised registrants to accomplish their application forms before going to its offices. The forms can be downloaded and printed from the poll body's website, www.comelec.gov.ph. Comelec says applying for voter reactivation can be done virtually. Just send your application to the email address of the election officer in your respective area. Comelec expects to log more than 66 million registrants for the barangay elections and more than 23 million registrants for the sangguniang kabataan elections. Madeline Villar Moratillo reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The country has logged 7,398 new COVID-19 cases from last week. From June 27 to July 3, the Department of Health data shows a daily average of 1,057 cases of virus infection. The number is 60% higher than that logged from July 20 or June 20 to June 26. The Department of Health reported that 19 new cases are severe and critical, while 74 deaths were added to the list of verified fatalities. Of these, 3 died last February, 6 in January, and the rest died last year.
China placed 1.7 million people under lockdown in central Anhui province, where authorities reported nearly 300 new COVID cases last week. Residents in the 2 counties of Sichuan and Ningbo province are only permitted to leave their homes if they are getting tested. Footage from state broadcaster CCTV showed empty streets in Sichuan and people lining up for their 6th round of mass testing in recent days. According to China's National Health Commission, Sichuan province reported 287 new infections today, including 258 people who had no symptoms, bringing the total COVID cases found to just over 1,000. Provincial Governor Wang Qingxian, in a statement, urged local local authorities to seize every minute and earnestly implement quick screenings as well as rapid quarantine and reporting of cases. Neighboring Jiangsu province also reported 56 new local infections across 4 cities. While cases remain low relative to China's vast population, officials insist the zero-COVID policy is necessary to prevent a healthcare calamity, pointing to unevenly distributing medical resources and low vaccination rates among the elderly. But the zero-COVID strategy has hammered the world's second-largest economy, and heavy-handed enforcement has triggered rare protests in tightly controlled country.
At least 3 people are dead and 3 others are in critical condition after a gunman opened fire in a crowded shopping mall in Copenhagen, Denmark. Danish police apprehended a suspect. They described him as a 22-year-old ethnic Dane. Police say there seemed to have been preparation ahead of the attack, and the victims appear to have been randomly targeted. Videos of the suspect circulating on social media show the young man posing with weapons, mimicking suicide gestures, and talking about psychiatric medication that does not work. Witnesses say the suspect tried to trick people by saying his weapon was a fake one to get them to approach. Other eyewitnesses told Danish media more than 100 people stampeded toward the mall's exit as the first gunshots rang out. As a precaution, police maintained an increased presence around the shopping mall and elsewhere in Copenhagen. Gun violence is rare in Denmark.
A glacier collapse in the Italian Alps has sparked an avalanche that has claimed at least 6 lives. Take a look. This dramatic footage shows the power of the snowslide. It happened in less than 10 seconds. And this is what it looked like after it was over. Another 8 people were injured when the avalanche swept across a popular hiking trail. There are reports of another 12 people missing. Rescuers used sniffer dogs and thermal drones to look for more victims as helicopters scrambled to the area to take part in the rescue. The disaster comes just a day after a record high temperature of 10 degrees Celsius in the region. Experts fear there could be further collapses of glaciers.
At least 4 people have been killed in Belgorod overnight in what appears to be the worst ever shelling of Russian territory by Ukraine. The Russian Defense Ministry said Kyiv launched 3 Tochka-U ballistic missiles loaded with cluster munitions at the Russian city of Belgorod. It also confirmed that all 3 had been intercepted midair, but that parts of one of the missiles had hit a house. Regional Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov verified to the press that 3 people were killed and 4 were injured overnight. He added that 11 apartment buildings and at least 39 smaller houses were damaged. Gladkov later reported that the death toll had grown to 4.3 of the victims. The victims are Ukrainian nationals and 1 is a Russian citizen. Russian news outlet Baza later reported that 2 more bodies were recovered from the rubble, raising the death toll to 6. Officials were still confirming Russian news outlet Baza's report about the additional bodies recovered from the rubble.
Moscow says the whole territory of the Luhansk People's Republic has been wrested from Ukrainian control. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu reported to Russian President Vladimir Putin that the last remnants of Ukrainian forces have been driven out of the LPR region. In a statement, Shoigu also confirmed that Russian troops and Donbas forces had completely seized Lysychansk. It's the last major city that had remained under Ukrainian control since 2014, when the LPR declared its independence shortly after a coup in Kyiv. Russia and Ukraine reported heavy fighting around Lysychansk earlier this week, with the fiercest combat occurring at the city's oil refinery. News of the capture of Lysychansk comes after Ukrainian troops retreated from Severodonetsk, a nearby city on the opposite side of the Seversky Donets River, last week.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan wants Ankara to become a re-exporter of Ukrainian goods, including grain, barley, oats, and sunflower oil. Erdogan told reporters that Turkey has stockpiles in merchant ships necessary for such an arrangement. The Turkish leader says he will discuss this idea in the coming days with his Russian and Ukrainian counterparts, Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky. Erdogan added that his government wanted to ensure that a grain corridor starts working as soon as possible.
After Joe Biden's plea to oil companies to slash gasoline prices, Jeff Bezos lambasted the U.S. president, accusing him of failing to grasp basic economics. The Amazon founder tweeted, "Inflation is far too important a problem for the White House to keep making statements like this. It's either straight-ahead misdirection or a deep misunderstanding of basic market dynamics." Bezos' comment was in response to the president's appeal to oil companies that run gas stations in the U.S. Biden urged oil companies to bring down the price they charge Americans at the pump as soon as possible, saying this is a time of war and global peril. Bezos was not the only one to castigate Biden for his latest remarks on U.S. energy security. Douglas Carswell, CEO of the Mississippi Center for Public Policy, tweeted, "Bizarre, tragic, pathetic, a U.S. president lashing out at gas hoarders." Bezos and the White House have sparred over the economy before, with the Biden administration criticizing the Amazon founder for opposing the president's planned reforms, imposing higher taxes on wealthy U.S. citizens. And in mid-May, Bezos lashed out at Washington for injecting more stimulus into an already overheated inflationary economy. Biden pinned the blame for high prices and inflation on Russia's military offensive on Ukraine, going as far as to describe the development as Putin's price hike. But RT News quoted a Rasmussen poll published in June saying that only 11% of Americans believe this to be the case, with more than a half of respondents pointing the finger at Biden.
Get him back down.
Next up, life-threatening floods force evacuations in Sydney, Australia. Human remains emerging in Lake Mead near Las Vegas as a ghastly effect of drought. And trash choke waterways in Brazil's Manaus. Just how severe is the city's garbage problem? We'll find that out after we return.
This portion is brought to you by 318 Automart. Arlex Trading and Construction Supplies.
And we're back with more global news here on Mata ng Agila International. A fire broke at the top of the massive but yet to be finished Capitol Towers building in Moscow. Several pictures and videos on social media show a thick black smoke billowing into the sky as the fire burns. Emergency services rushed to the scene, with the Ministry of Emergency Situations saying that firefighters were investigating the incident. Next, a Belarusian media outlet tweeted that emergency services arrived at the scene of the accident. According to preliminary data, a fire broke out on the roof of the building. TASS news agency in Russia reported that the fire was put out before the fire brigade arrived, with only the scaffolding of the 66-story building burned. The Capitol Towers is a complex of 3 luxurious and residential skyscrapers that are currently under construction in Moscow.
Officials in the Uzbek region of Karakalpakstan say thousands of people are being treated in hospital after being injured during a clash between the state and protesters. The regional health minister said hospitals in the regional capital Nukus were full of patients. The unrest broke out with the security forces when protesters took to the streets over plans to withdraw the territory's right to secede. President Shavkat Mirziyoyev says the plans will not be carried out, accusing what he calls malicious forces of trying to destabilize and undermine the situation in the Central Asian state. He also claimed protest organizers are trying to seize the buildings of local government bodies in order to obtain weapons. AFP news agency quoted Mirziyoyev as saying the men took advantage of their numerical superiority and attacked law enforcers by severely beating them and inflicting severe injuries. Uzbekistan has a reputation for being one of the most repressive republics of the former Soviet Union, clamping down on any form of opposition. Reports say police and the army are now patrolling the streets of Nukus after a state of emergency was declared.
Hundreds of Israelis took to the streets in Tel Aviv on the weekend to protest the high cost of living. The demonstrators say it's time for the government to step up and help its people. And they say the issue has been neglected for years. Protester Yotam Harpaz says people simply can't afford to live in Israel.
So I'm here today because the Israeli people can't stand the prices of rental homes. People are getting out of their houses. They have nowhere else to go. And here we started Tel Aviv, which is a very expensive city, but it's not only in Tel Aviv, it's all around the country. In the north, we have a protest going out right now. And next week, we're going to have one in Hulon and in Ashkelon and all over the place. In Be'er Sheva, we have a protest. And it's a whole country movement. It's not only in Tel Aviv.
Thousands of people in Sydney, Australia have been ordered to leave their homes because of a possibility of a life-threatening flood. Torrential rains battered the country's largest city on Sunday, with floodwaters inundating Sydney's outskirts. Roads into it have been cut off. At least 18 evacuation orders have been issued. On Sunday, emergency services conducted 29 flood rescues and had been called out more than 1,400 times in the previous 24 hours. Steph Cook, Emergency Services Minister for New South Wales, says these floods could be deadly and people should be ready to leave their homes on short notice.
We are now facing dangers on multiple fronts: flash flooding, riverine flooding, and coastal erosion. So if you live anywhere between Newcastle and Batemans Bay, please don't be caught unaware by the current weather situation. This is a life-threatening emergency situation.
Lake Mead near Las Vegas is drying up in a grueling decades-long drought. Its receding waters are leaving behind not only the usual flotsam and jetsam of a lake heavily trafficked by weekend boaters, but also bodies. One recent find caught the attention of mob watchers. The skeletal remains of a man who had been shot in the head, stuffed in a barrel and tossed in the lake 4 decades ago. Geoff Schumacher, vice president of the Mob Museum, thinks it could be the body of a Las Vegas casino veteran named Johnny Papas.
We also know Harry Pappas had his own boat at Lake Mead, and he was trying to sell it. And so right before he disappeared, he told his wife he was going to lunch with someone who was interested in buying his boat.
Lake Mead is a massive reservoir on the Colorado River created by the Hoover Dam. It is now just a quarter full and shows no sign of stabilizing as warm temperatures fueled by man-made climate change hits the region.
Over a dozen people remain missing after a Chinese engineering ship with a crew of 30 sank. Fujing 001 sank some 300 kilometers southwest of Hong Kong as the typhoon Chaba lashed southern China with powerful winds of 144 kilometers per hour. Though Hong Kong's government flying service had pulled 3 people to safety, they said that hopes of finding any further survivors were very, very slim due to poor weather conditions that made it too dangerous for the rescue teams. Yet, just hours later, southern China's Guangdong Maritime Search and Rescue Center announced it had rescued a 4th crew member who they described as being in a normal physical condition. According to local media, the rescued crew members have all been described as being in stable conditions and are being treated at a hospital. Meanwhile, Guangdong authorities also said they had found what are believed to be the remains of 12 other crew members and that the identities of the bodies were still being confirmed. Hong Kong's flying service said it had used 3 fixed-wing aircraft, 6 helicopters, and 36 rescuers for the search operation, which had a perimeter spanning 1,300 kilometers. The Guangdong Maritime Search and Rescue Center said it had used 7 rescue vessels, as well as salvage, merchant, and Coast Guard ships. Authorities had also coordinated with China's Southern Airlines to send rescue helicopters.
After being worked on for a year, Chile's new draft constitution will be officially submitted to President Gabriel Boric before eventually being put to a referendum. The new text will replace the constitution written during the leadership of Augusto Pinochet. It aims to establish new social rights. In the first of the new constitution's 388 articles, Chile is described as a social and democratic state of law, as well as plurinational, intercultural, and ecological. Barbara Sepulveda, a draft assembly member from the Communist Party, says they believe they had met the social demands and the desires of the citizens. Alondra Carrillo also adds that it is a proposal that represents a historic advance in terms of democracy and the guarantee of social rights for Chile. Meanwhile, other right-wing constituent members were less enthusiastic. For Christian Monkenberg, this is a missed opportunity to build something that unites rather than divides the country. Chile's new draft constitution was drawn up by a constituent assembly of 154 citizens, most of whom were independent of political affiliation. The new document will be put to a referendum on September 4, with voting obligatory for 15 million Chileans, who will decide whether to accept or reject the new constitution.
The largest city in Brazil's Amazon rainforest has its canals and streams filled with tons of stinking trash. Take a look. On the west side of the city, an excavator scoops up a bucket load of plastic and even home appliances that have been tossed in the water. Not far from the city's main port, municipal workers gather garbage from a boat and pile it onto a big barge floating on one of the Amazon's river's main tributaries, the Rio Negro. The massive influx of trash to Manaus waterways occurs around this time every year, but city authorities believe the situation has gotten worse in recent weeks. From January to May, city workers have removed 4,500 tons of trash, most of which could have been recycled instead of being thrown in the river. According to the city's Undersecretary of Sanitation, if the population was more aware of the costs associated with littering, the city could save $190,000 per month.
A park in Mozambique has just welcomed its first white rhinos in 40 years. 19 of the threatened animals completed a 1,000-mile truck ride from South Africa. On Friday, some of them were released from their enclosures into a sanctuary with extra security to protect them from poachers. The endangered animals were reintroduced to Zenave National Park in southern Mozambique under an initiative to restore wildlife and boost the local economy. The nation's decades-long civil war, along with poaching, had decimated wildlife in the 4,000 square kilometer haven. But now Zenave houses all big 5 African game animals: elephant, rhino, lion, leopard, and buffalo. Since 2015, 2,400 animals from 14 species have been released into the reserve.
Experts at London's Kew Gardens revealed that they have discovered the first new giant water lily species since the mid-19th century, after it was initially mistaken for another. Take a look. Specimens of the new species had lain undiscovered in the Botanical Garden for 177 years and in the National Herbarium of Bolivia for 34 years. It had been thought they were from the Victoria amazonica, one of the 2 known varieties of giant water lilies, whose genus was named after Queen Victoria in 1852. But their true identity was revealed after experts at Kew worked with a team from the Latin American country to establish that they were in fact a 3rd variety. Apart from being the newest species of giant water lily, Victoria boliviana is also the largest in the world. Its leaves grow as wide as 3 meters in the wild. Coming up, Filipino students' science experiment proposal to be performed on the International Space Station. LA hosts its 2nd fireworks buyback event ahead of the 4th of July holiday. And Harry Styles cancels his Copenhagen show after a shooting near the concert venue. Mata ng Agila will return for details after the short break.
Malapit na tayong gumiling sa lutong Daza.
Malapit na. Ngayong Sabado, alas 10 ng umaga. Kita-kits!
Ang morning show na always nagbibigay ng
shows. Treat your kids to Net25's animated shows.
Miffy, a sweet little bunny. Miffy, a smart little bunny. Miffy, a cute little bunny. Miffy, it always feels sunny. With Miffy!
Miffy's Adventures Big and Small, Sundays at 10 a.m., back to back with
Rescue Bots, Sundays at 10:30 a.m. Only on Net25.
Panalo tayo pag together, wala talo pag together. Let's stand together sa Net25.
This portion is brought to you by Source Alliance.
A proposed experiment by a Filipino student of the University of the Philippines, Los Banos, is set to be conducted on the International Space Station in the fall of 2022. William Kevin Abran's entry, Rotation of Dumbbell-Shaped Objects in Space, is one of 6 experiments chosen as part of the Asian Tri-Zero-G 2022 program. Abran's proposal was introduced as a theme that aims to systematically examine the behavior of rotating objects in orbit and the Jani-Bekov effect by means of 2 rigid bodies with different centers of gravity. Abran's submitted experiment will be conducted by astronaut Koichi Wakata at the ISS Kibo.
Ruja Ignatova has been placed on the FBI's 10 most wanted list after allegedly defrauding investors out of $4 billion in a fake cryptocurrency scam called Onecoin. Ignatova founded Onecoin in 2014, but investigators said the Bulgarian-based project had no blockchain securing transactions and coins were essentially minted out of thin air. Crypto queen Ignatova hasn't been seen since fleeing in 2017 after discovering her American boyfriend was cooperating with authorities. The FBI offers a $100,000 reward for information that leads to her capture. Europol also added Ignatova to Europe's most wanted list last month.
Coinbase has denied a report that U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement uses its historical geo-tracking data to track and identify people based on their crypto transaction history. The company said on Twitter that its software does not make use of Coinbase user data, ever. Previously, the media found a copy of the contract dated August 3, 2021 between ICE and Coinbase. Page 19 of the contract contains a price list and proposal from Coinbase saying that its analytics web browser tool allows users to track data related to cryptocurrencies, including all ERC20 tokens on the Ethereum network. The proposal also says that its software can perform transaction demixing, shielded transaction analysis, and historical geo-tracking data. But Coinbase defended its suite of analytics software, saying it is meant to be used for compliance, anti-money laundering, and identifying terrorist financing. Dutch sprinter Dylan Groenewegen snatched victory in the 3rd stage of the Tour de France, edging Wout van Aert on the line, although the Belgian retained the overall race leader's yellow jersey. With large crowds lining the route in the Jutland region, bike exchange rider Groenewegen ensured Jumbo's Van Aert finished second for the 3rd time after the 182-kilometer stage, the last in Denmark before the race returns to France.
Today we are a long time boxed in. I was also involved in a crash with 9K to go. but he bring me back in position. We stay calm. On the end, I was on the right side. Yeah, it's been a really...
Van Aert leads Yves Lampaert atop the overall standings by 7 seconds, with Tadej Pogacar in third and at 14 seconds. The yellow jersey holder is also top of the sprint points rankings for the green jersey.
The British Grand Prix was red flagged after a horror opening quarter multi-car smash at Silverstone on Sunday, with Zhu Guanyu's Alfa Romeo flipped upside down and hurtling over the circuit's safety barrier. Take a look. As Max Verstappen pipped pole sitter Carlos Sainz to the first corner, there was carnage behind, with marshals rushing to Zhu, trapped in his stricken car. George Russell's Mercedes, Alpine's Esteban Ocon, Yuki Tsunoda, and the Williams of Alex Albon were also involved. Zhu's car was catapulted upside down, the Chinese rookie's head saved by his car's roll hoop halo as it skidded off across a gravel trap and over tire barriers into the catch fencing, where it bounced back to finish semi-upright in a stationary position. Zhu was attended to by emergency evacuation medical crews and lifted out, transferred onto a stretcher and taken by ambulance to the Circuit Medical Center. Albon was also taken to the medical center before being transferred to Coventry Hospital by helicopter for further precautionary tracks. The sports ruling body, the International Motoring Federation, reported that both drivers were conscious and were being checked over and evaluated. They later announced that Zhu was in good health and has left the medical center. In reruns of the start, it appeared that Russell, starting 8th, moved to his right after a poor start and collided with Zhu's Alfa Romeo as the pair strove to stay ahead of Pierre Gasly. This triggered Zhu's wild excursion off circuit and dragged other cars into further less serious multiple collisions around them.
In an effort to get dangerous fireworks off the streets of Los Angeles during the 4th of July holiday in the United States, the city hosts its second fireworks buyback event. Close to 700 pounds of illegal fireworks have been collected this year. Eva Basalyay has the details.
In a joint effort between the Los Angeles Police and Fire Departments and the City Council District 7, the second annual fireworks buyback program aims to give LA City residents a safe and anonymous way to dispose of fireworks just in time for the 4th of July holiday.
Today I'm hosting the second annual fireworks buyback program, where we are offering an opportunity for the public to turn in illegal fireworks. Fireworks are completely illegal in the city of Los Angeles, but to turn them in anonymously and to garner something of great value in exchange. We have a number of gift cards, Dodger tickets, a variety of options that are going to be provided in kind for people voluntarily disposing of these items here. Excited to be offering this opportunity again this year. Last year was wildly successful. We collected over a quarter ton of illegal fireworks, and so we're hoping to make that an even bigger number this year.
It's very easy. There's no information that's taken down, no ID required. We don't write down people's license plates. It's very anonymous. You come in, you open up your trunk, they go in the back, grab the fireworks, they weigh it, and depending on what the weight of the fireworks is the kind of prize or gift card that you get. There was quite a big amount that was taken off the streets here, and we're expecting about the same again for this year. Eventually, rolling this out to the entire city is the goal. We want to make sure that we give the opportunity to citizens, especially parents who find their kids have gone out and bought some fireworks. We want to get them off the streets. Tragically, here in Los Angeles, we see a lot of fireworks that are illegal in our city being set off on 4th of July weekend. They cause unnecessary injuries and they cause fires. We have about 400 additional incidents on top of our already busy call load, and those are related or connected to fireworks.
The main reason why we're doing this is to try to minimize the amount of illegal fireworks in the city of Los Angeles. We do know that there are fireworks in other cities that deem them safe and sane, and those are the ones that you see in the little booths, but not in the city of Los Angeles. So people typically will buy those in other areas and bring them into the city of Los Angeles for use. where it is illegal for that to happen. So between the fire department and the police department, we're trying to prevent that from happening by buying them back from people who may have acquired them.
We're willing to have people turn in their illegal fireworks and give them amnesty for charges and what have you. And we're hopeful that people are going to bring in fireworks maybe that a family member has, their friends have, maybe they have them around the house from previous 4th of July celebrations or something. Those can be in a very dangerous state. They can be unstable depending on how long you've had them, where you've stored them, and how you've stored them. What we're asking people to do is bring them in so that we can take them into custody safely and have our LAPD bomb squad dispose of them in a safe manner. The one message I'd really like to send is there are plenty of professional fireworks and laser shows going on throughout this weekend. I would encourage people to avail themselves of those events and enjoy themselves. Enjoy the 4th of July. Enjoy the things that are important in this country. Enjoy our independence and freedom.
Invite everybody to attend one of our wonderfully produced public events. We have, for the first time in well over a decade, I'm hosting a first annual drone light show, the first of its kind in the city of Los Angeles on the 4th of July. So come on out, have a good time with the family, and let's celebrate the 4th of July safely.
The quarter ton in 21 Councilwoman Rodriguez spoke of translates into a quarter ton less air and noise pollution and a quarter ton less risk of property damage and bodily injury. For 2022, they hope to surpass last year's numbers. Eva Basayahe, Matanang Agila International, Mission Hills, California. Trusted, connected, on point.
A Harry Styles concert in Copenhagen has been cancelled after a gunman opened fire Sunday at a major shopping mall located near the venue. The English singer-songwriter released a statement confirming that Sunday's show at the Royal Arena would not go on in the wake of the shooting, which left 3 people dead and 3 people in critical condition. Styles tweeted that he is heartbroken along with the people of Copenhagen. He also said that he is devastated for the victims, their families, and everyone hurting. The As It Was hitmaker was expected to perform Sunday at Copenhagen's Royal Arena as part of his Love on Tour concert series. Denmark police shut down the Royal Arena, which is located minutes from Fields Shopping Mall, where the tragedy occurred.
Here are today's historical events. In 1865, the first edition of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll was published. However, because of quality issues, the first print run was soon recalled. A new first edition was released in November. In 1946, the Treaty of Manila was signed. The treaty provided for the relinquishment of American sovereignty over the Philippine Islands. Celebrating this event, the nation's Independence Day holiday was held on July 4 until former President Diosdado Macapagal moved it to June 12. Today, July 4 is celebrated as Filipino-American Friendship Day. And in 1966, the world-renowned British rock band The Beatles played 2 shows at the Rizal Memorial Football Stadium in Manila. The first was at 4 p.m. before 30,000 people, and the second was in the evening before 50,000. Gate receipts from the 2 concerts totaled $100,000.
Winding up tonight's broadcast is a quote from former U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt. Order without liberty and liberty without order are equally destructive. There has to be a balance between freedom and power.
Good balance of everything.
And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates in our social media channels. I'm CJ Hero.
And I'm Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.